Right, well, you're joining me in the garage today for the Class 20 project. What is it? Well, it's where I take the Batman Class 20 in BR Blue livery with the small logo and carry out the plans on her. By replacing the BR double arrow logos for the Scot Dog logos, placing some BR small logos on the panels by the fan, and also weathering her using Umbro weathering powders, and putting the Headcode discs and fitting the couplings on her. Okay, now I'm not going to go too much into the plans because you already know what they are. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, before I start, this project will be done in separate days, such as day 1, day 2, day 3, etc. And the reason I'm doing that is because you cannot rush a fine project like this. Because when you rush, it doesn't really take pride in your work. You're not really taking pride in any of it. And if you bodge up a project like this, it's not going to be easy to do again. Some of you might just go out and buy another one and try again, but I'm not one of those people. I like to take it different steps without rushing and letting it do properly. Because rushing leads to bad results, and if you don't rush it, then it will be perfect, or in my case, at least how you want it to look. That's how I reckon. Right, well, first we're going to debrand the decals, and for this job I'm going to use the PVA Loco cradle. It's a very nice piece of foam. I've had it for 3 years now, and it's never let me down. It's been quite useful. So we'll just grab the Class 20 and we'll place her flat on her side onto the cradle. Now, some of you might be thinking, why are you placing her flat on her side on the cradle? Well, if I was going to place her on the wood flat on her side, there's a chance that it'll get knocked about and get damaged. But with foam, that can't happen. Now, there's 2 ways that you can debrand the logos. The first one is just simply getting some BR Blue paint and covering the logo up. Or there's this, getting a flat bladed screwdriver and gently rubbing on the logo, and it works like a treat. So let's get it into view and we'll zoom in on it slightly. There we go. Now, I have already started to rub it off, as you can see. Now, I apologise if you cannot see what I'm doing, but, you know, you should be able to more or less see what I'm doing. As you can see. There's the marks of where the transfer is starting to rub off, and that is a good sign. But don't do it too roughly though, because otherwise you may very well damage the paintwork. And there you have it. Now you can see. Now you might be left with this bit here, but you can always cover that up with blue paint later on. So get a ball of tissue and just rub off the bits from the decal. So now we're going to turn over to the other side and repeat the same steps. So again, screwdriver and rub. Okay. So that's debranded the best I can. So we'll take the loco cradle away because we won't be needing that next. And there you go. So that works perfectly. It might not be the best of debranding, but hey, it's going to be covered up with transfers anyway. Right, so now we'll move on to the next step. Next, get a little bowl, disposable one preferably, and put just a little bit of water in. Now you can use a dish, but whatever you use, don't fill it to the brim with water, because that's just overkill and you'll probably ruin the transfers. Anyway, so get the transfers. These are from Fox Transfers. I highly recommend you get them from them because you won't be disappointed. Because, wow, they're just amazing, Fox Transfers are. You'll also need some scissors as well. So there's the instructions, and here's the transfers, the Scot Dog ones, as you can see. Let's just chuck the rubbish to the side, and here's the instructions. Don't throw these away, for obvious reasons. Right, now get the transfers and cut them out very gently. Oh, you can actually see what I'm doing then. So there's the transfers. Now I suggest you cut down the middle between these two, get your hand out like that, and cut them in two. The reason why is because if you just cut them out together with two on, and you just put it in the water to soak, when it comes to sliding the transfers off, then you'll end with the two actually together and not separated, and that's not very good. But anyway, so now you get them in the water and you just place them in. Now it doesn't matter if they bend, because they will not come out bent. That was a bit funny then. And remember, even if you bodge them up, you've still got a lot more on there. You see, that is what's good about Fox transfers. But anyway, now I recommend that you leave them for at least 5 or 10 minutes, if so. So just leave them to set and I'll be back. Right, well the transfers are done, and I know this because the transfers have actually come off the paper, especially that one there. But what you can do is get some tweezers that you get in a nail set. Why they give you them I don't know, but if you get the tweezers and grab hold of the paper, you will need the loco cradle again for this bit, by the way, for putting the transfers on the loco. Right, so get the tweezers, grab hold of the card like that, and simply do that. Then just move that out of the way, bring the loco cradle into shot, and the loco. Then get a needle. Now you can use a cocktail stick, but I don't presently have one. And then just position it and slide it off. It's as simple as that. Now the transfer, they can't actually see it at this point, has actually got lifted up a bit, and that's because there's water under it. So get a cotton bud and simply do that. And then if it moves the transfers, simply position it back. So there you go. Now you need to do the same for the other side. So, move that out of the way. Grab hold of the piece of card or paper. Move the bowl out of the way. Bring this back into shot. And there you go. Okay, so the transfers are now on, so now we've got to leave them to set and then we'll go on to the next step. Right, now next, and this is something that I recommend you do and it's recommended by Fox Transfers, is get some gloss varnish. I recommend Humbrol. But it's hard to get off, as you can see. And get a brush. I recommend one this size or smaller, not too big because it's just a bit daft. Dipping it into the varnish and putting it on the transfers on top. Why? Well, it actually stops them from getting damaged. And it's not unlikely that that can happen. Okay. Then, once you've done, put the lid back on. And then leave that to set. And that's it. The transfers are now dry. Just look at that. That is a perfect finish. And I'm quite pleased with that. And the same goes for on the other side as well. So she's definitely starting to look how I want her. And it won't matter about those little bits and marks from the old logos, because weathering can cover that up. And besides, I actually think it looks a bit interesting like that, because it shows you where the old logos used to be. Which is interesting. But anyway, now we are going to get ready for the next step. In day 2. Right, well here's day 2 of the Class 20 project. Now, in day 2, we will be detailing the locomotive, putting the Headcode discs on, the couplings and the Bufferbeam detailing. Now, I would have put the BR Logos on the panels there, but they still haven't come from Fox Transfers. So I'm still having to wait. But, you know, it just means that it can be longer and more fun. I know people would like to see me putting the transfers on, but you know, what can you do? But as they say, patience is a virtue. So anyway, let's get this detail done, shall we? Right, well I've lowered the camera so you can actually see what I'm doing, because first we're going to put the couplings in. So here are the couplings. Now, this is the one that came with the Batman Class 20. But quite bizarrely, I only got one. Now, I do have some spare. Now, these two came from the 153 from Hornby. But because I don't really plan to connect up to any other DMUs or get another 153, then they can be used on other locomotives, such as the Class 20. Now, I know they look a bit long, but actually, if you put them together like that, they are actually more or less the same size, actually, if you can see. It's just that this one, the 153, is just a little inch bigger than the one from Batman, as you can see. But it's not going to be too noticeable anyway. Besides, these will do the job of what they are built to do. So we'll get this in the NEM socket. Okay, well, the coupling hook itself has come off, but I'll have to fix it back on in a bit, because this is not going to be easy. Right, well there's the one in. Wasn't exactly easy to do, but hey, it's in anyway. And it wasn't actually easy getting this little hook back in either. But anyway, now on to the other one. Well, actually, now that bizarrely was easier to do. So there we go. So the couplings are now on. This one just needs to be pushed in just a little bit. There we go. Okay, now it's done. We can now move on to the next step. Right, now I've slightly raised the camera so we can have a look at this, the bag of details. So, get the scissors. and get the details out. Now we'll get the Bufferbeam detailing on first. So we'll start by putting on these vacuum pipes. So just sort the pipes out too. Don't know why there's a staple there. And there we go. Right, so get some glue. Now I'm going to use PVA for this, which is just as useful as any other glue. And then, I would recommend you get the needle that I was using earlier on for the transfers. I can still use it for the transfers because I'll be using this end, which is what I'll be using in the video. But these are actually useful, other than stitching holes up in clothes, for actually putting details on locomotives. Okay, so just dip it in the glue, a bit like that. And now we've got some holes here. And basically do that. You should be able to see the white mark. And then get one of your pipes. Right, well this vacuum pipe is not proving easy to put in. It doesn't really want to go in fact. Which is typical. But what can you do? So we're going to put one of these on instead. And just simply put it on the holes. It's actually hard to see them because the Bufferbeam is black. So there you go. That's it. Then we'll fit on one of these larger vacuum pipes. Only God knows how easy these are going to be put in. And there you go. So we're going to let the glue dry before doing the other end. Now, these vacuum pipes just will not fit in the little holes, so we're not going to bother putting these in. We'll just fit the ones that are easy to put in. Besides, anyway, if you put too much of it on, then the odds are it's going to clash with what you couple it up to. So, better be safe than sorry. And now we do the same for the other end. so there we go. Go down. And there we go. There's the Bufferbeam detailing put on. Right, now we are going to put the Headcode discs on. Now we'll just warn you, well, with this particular model, you only get, if the camera will focus, there we go, 4 and only 4 of these little white discs. So you're going to have to be careful not to lose them, because the Class 20 I had in BR Greenleaf free, that had more than 4. This one only has 4, and this is, bear in mind, was a brand new model when I first bought it. But anyway, so remember the Headcode I'm going to do. I'm going to do the one for mixed rate, which is basically a disc there and a disc there. So what we're going to do, get the cocktail stick and put it on the glue, and the hole is just about there. As you can see. Okay, so the glue is now in place. Now, I'm not too sure how easy this is going to be. So I apologise if you cannot see what I'm doing. Okay, so there's the first one attached. And now the second one. And there we go. Now, for the discs that go on these ones, and these are going to be the yellow ones, obviously. And there we go. That's the one end done. And now for the other end. Okay, so the glue's in. Well, there's always one that's a pain to get in. Right, there we go. And in fact, on this bottom hole, we're going to put a bit more glue in. Right, there we go. And now finally, we will put these on. So there's one on. And there we go. That's basically the finishing of the details. I'll just put the spares away. So now we will leave that to dry overnight before moving on to day 3. Right, now we're on to day 3 of the Class 20 project, and it's the final day. We're finally at the end, and in this part we are going to put on the BR double arrow logos on the panels where the fan is, and we're also going to do the weathering. Wow, the weathering, which is probably what people are looking forward to most, to be honest. But anyway, let's crack on then, shall we? So the transfers have just arrived in the post, and here we are, as you can see. Now these are actually from the Doncaster Enterprise transfers, and I've bought them solely for them, the BR double arrow logos. Now I do get 4, get those 2 there, and those 4 there. But I do have these transfers that I can put aside for spares, such as these nameplates, Midland Counties Railway 150 and Doncaster Enterprise. They might become handy actually for a future thing. But anyway, so let's get these open. I'm really glad that they turned up today, because it means I can finish off the project. So there's the transfers, and you get a picture of a Class 59 there, and a Class 60, or a tug. And then here's the leaflet that you also get. then here's the transfers. So just take them out like that. But there we go. Right. So these all they can go to one side because we don't really need them. And, well, so can these for that matter. Because we might not need them just yet. But in case we do, they're there. And I know they're black, but hey, you can almost paint them white. Take away this black card. The instructions. And then, here's the transfers. So we're going to cut them out. Right, well first, we can move the chopper out of the way. And bring in the disposable bowl in the water. Now this is actually a different bowl. It's not the same one you saw in day one. But it is an identical one. But they are disposable, so when you finish using them, they can just go in the bin. And besides, we do have loads of these, so it's not really a big problem. Right, so anyhow, there's the bowl. Get the scissors. And carefully cut them out. As you can see, so now that can go to one side. So I'm not really going to be needing it. Bring the bowl forward a bit. And then there's the transfers. There we go. Look at that. Perfect cutting out. And then just soak them in the water. And there we go. So we'll leave them to soak for about 10 to 15 minutes like we did last time, and then we'll come back and put them on the loco. Train on. Right, well the transfer should be dry now, so we're going to put the loco cradle back into shot and move the bowl out the way. Then we're going to grab the class 20 and we will position it just there on the end of the cradle. Okay. So in fact now, it's probably best if we bring the bowl onto this side actually. Because then that way, it will be easier. Yeah, as you can see, the transfers are definitely done, because one has just slid off the card or paper, whatever the hell they call it, but you can still save them. Right, so I've got the card, or paper, doesn't matter what you call it. And just scoop up the transfer. There we go. Then you need the cocktail stick, or needle in my case, and simply just slide it off. There we go. Now it's not exactly bang on in the place where it needs to be. is now. And then just soak up all the excess water. And there we go. Then we need to do the same for the other side. I think this should be my new dab hand, shouldn't it? Transfers. There we are. And then get the cotton bud. It has slightly moved the transfer. And there we go. So now we leave them to dry. Now that the transfers have dried, we're now going to get the gloss varnish. Then just get your brush, dip it in, and then turn it over. And there you go. Now we'll leave that to dry. Right, now that the transfers have been put on, and the details, we are now moving on to the final step. The weathering. Oh yeah. And this is the powder that I'll be using. Made by Humble, and this is brand new for their range. You're also going to be needing some matte varnish. Well, actually, I'm going to be using transparent lacquer, something like that. But it doesn't show out transparent, it actually shows out matte. And I'll explain why you need that in a second. And you'll also be needing a brush, preferably one this small. Now when it comes to weathering the model, you can get inspiration to do so. Such as you may have seen something in real life that's weathered. Maybe for a magazine or a book or a video, or photographs on the internet. The inspiration I'm getting mine from is this. Rail Express. But the inspiration I'm getting to do the weathering is not actually from a real locomotive, it's from a model. Should have probably bookmarked for this really. There we go. If we turn to this page, which is in the model section, you will see, if you just move the class 20 out the way, you'll see these models. Now there is a BR Blue livery class 20 here that has been weathered, but that's been weathered using earth, you know, the earth powder, or frame dirt, which either one of the two, but I'm not wanting that. because the weathering powder I have is black. Now you can also get one that's smoke, but there is really no difference between the two, so I just went for black. Because what I'm planning to doing is not having either the earth or the frame dirt, whatever it is. I'm wanting this. That's the weathering I'm going to do, something like that. I know the Class 20 is in a different livery, but we'll forget that. It's the weathering we're focusing on. I want to make it like the soot from the exhaust. Like I want to have it round the exhausts there, round the fan and down the sides, to make it look like it's been used and real. And that's really good if you do something like that. It's up to you how you weather it, but I'm going for that. So now, enough with the chit chat, let's get started. But before we do start, paper. I recommend that you put some paper, which the autofocus doesn't like, down, because, well, even though that we'll probably be using the loco cradle, in some parts, when weathering the locomotives, you'll probably find that you'll get some powder on the floor. And if you put paper down, it'll just go on the paper, and you can just tip it back into the pot. But you don't want it getting on the wood of the layouts, or any areas that you don't want it to. That's the important thing. So I recommend you get A4 paper, or newspaper even, for this job. It doesn't matter, but I've gone for A4, because, well, let's be honest, I don't think people really want to read what's going on in the news. They'll be more interested in the weathering, but still. Right, anyway. So we'll bring the locomotive into shot. Now, before we weather it, let's talk about this stuff. Why do we need it? Well, I recommend you use it mostly after you've done the weathering, because it will help it to stick. And there's a reason why. Because, hold on a sec, I have a little story to tell about this beast. 47787 in West Coast Railways Maroon. As you can see, there's the weathered roof. When I weathered it, I put some varnish before I did the weathering. Then afterwards went the powder. But I did not put any varnish on top. And whenever I touched the roof, I'd get black marks on my fingers. And I was like, where the hell did this come from? But it wasn't until I realised when I actually touched this area of the roof, it was actually from the weathering powder. So I put some varnish on top. And if I just rub my finger over that area, see, I get no powder on my fingers. That is why I recommend you use the varnish. You can put some on before the weathering if you want, but you don't have to. You can put it on after, because it will still help it to stick. But I don't recommend glue, no. Because locos like this, for example, the diesels, the glue could run down along the body and into the bogies and onto the wheels. And then it could muck up the running. Plus, it could run down the side and go into the grills, into the motor and the mechanism. And that is not going to be very good, is it? Because you'll probably end up knackering the motor, to be fairly honest. But with varnish, it wouldn't do that. But anyway, let's crack on. Right, well, I'm sure people don't want to hear me rabbiting on all day about other locomotives I've weathered or matte varnish. Let's get the weathering started. So, get the powder and open it up, which is easy to do. Get the brush, and then begin. So just dab it into the powder, and we'll start with the exhaust first. So just try and brush it on as much as you can, and it doesn't matter if it goes onto the paper, you can always tip it back. Okay, so the exhausts are weathered. Now we're going to do around the fan. There, so we've just turned it around. Now the weathering might not look that visible, but it will be when the varnish is on, hopefully. So we're going to do some weathering around the fan. Now you may be thinking, why? Well, weathering does not just build up in one place. It builds up various places. You know, it builds up around the grills, in some cases on the windows, on the bogies, or even down the sides, and around the exhausts. And in some cases even on the buffers, did I mention? You know, especially, look at the locomotives that come off the RHTT duties. They are incredibly filthy, especially if it's the case of the 97s. So, you know. And it even builds up sometimes underneath the door handles and handrails. Now, in the case of the weathering around the fan, I only spread a little bit around. Not too much. I also recommend you give the brush a shake as well, so you don't get too much on. There we go. Now we're going to do down the ridges, if that's what you want to call them. And you can actually scoop some off the paper and use it. Down the middle there. Oh yeah, she's coming on great already actually. And then on the end, and there we go. So the roof is more or less done, and as you can see it's looking very grubby. Obviously we will put a little bit though around these, well, whatever they are. Only just a slight bit of weathering though, so there we go. Right, now the roof is done, I think. Yeah, and you can apply light bits of weathering as well, like in places like that if you want. But you know, so there you go. There's the roof, and I am actually quite pleased with that so far. Just look at the weathering. Now we're going to do down the sides. So in comes the loco cradle, and I'm going to have to be very careful not to actually touch areas of the roof. Probably best of a, yeah, do it like that, because I can actually get down the sides then better. So, in goes the brush, tap it on the side, what you can do is, you know, brush it out to make it look really neater. And if you get some on the side of the frames, you'll just brush it off. Or in some cases like that, wipe it. Or with tissue. Right, so back to the weathering. Now, down the side here, it's going to be a little bit difficult. Yeah, you can see there's exactly what I mean by the grubby powders. It doesn't matter if you get some on the handrails, the more the better. Right. Let's just check the roof. Yes. And down the sides again. Now over there on the side, now I have actually slightly gone over this Scot Dog tail. So what you can do, if it's a mistake, just fix it. Well, actually I've got a much better idea. Leave it. Looks a bit more realistic that way. I don't know what that was then, but anyway. Okay, so the sides are weathered. Now, just remove the cradle. I have got some on the side, so I will just spread it off and it will leave a little bit of weathering. More or less. So some slight weathering there will be left. Okay. Yeah, we'll weather some of the frames. And there we go. Just get your brush like that. And there we go. So that bit's weathered. So put the lid back on the weathering powder. And then I recommend you wash your brush out, because now comes the varnish. Right, so get the matte varnish, or in this case, lacquer transparent, whatever. Crap. Sorry about that. Right, so now get your brush, just dab it in only slightly into the varnish, and then just put it on. And also, try and spread it all over the place, for God's sake. Basically the areas you've weathered. Right, in fact, I'm going to have to turn it round. There we are. Don't need to rush this, by the way. As I said before, rushing, in my opinion, you're not taking pride in what you're doing. Right, well, I believe the battery went low then, but doesn't matter. Now, the trick is with this, don't put too much of this stuff on. You probably actually can't see the jar in place, but hey. Now if we just, there we are, just slightly balance the loco like that. There you are. And when it's weathered, it will probably be a very grubby chopper. But that is what I'm aiming for. Okay, right, well, that's basically it for the matte varnish. Now we've got to wait for it to dry, so it's probably best to take it into a warm area, because it's not very warm in here and it will take ages to dry. So let's get into a warm place. Well, it's now been several hours. Well, to you it'll be like seconds, but it's actually hours to me. And I can now safely say that I'm going to have to stop doing that. Ta-da! The Class 20 project is finished. Wow, just look at that. I am more than happy than how this has turned out. Just look at the weathering, the transfers, and the details that are put on. It's all exactly how I wanted it to look. I've just got a big grin on my face now. Just look at the weathering. It actually looks like it's real, like it's been used. I've even weathered, don't know if you can see, the running plate there a bit. I think I'm now gonna have to weather the green one as well, because I think it will look really fab weathered as well. And when I get the rail freight grey one, which is planned, then I might weather that one as well. And then when I have them coupled together in 3, which I will do, then it will just look absolutely amazing. I can't run them yet though, because the other side of the layout has got a load of wagons that need to be moved. But yeah, 2 choppers. Wow. Wow. I'm really amazed. Took 3 days to do, but it's finished. You have to excuse the shed in the background. And also, some slight weathering has been onto the handrails as well, as you can see. It's only slight, but hey, I actually think it makes the model look a bit better. And there's even some slight weathering that's been put on the decals as well. Mainly the Scot Dog one there, and some slight weathering has gone there slightly to the BR logo. But anyway, so that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. And the Class 20 project, absolutely amazing. Wow. I'm so glad it's finished. and I just can't wait to have her running in upcoming videos, because she will look immense. Right, well, that's all I have time for this video. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you soon. Look at the weathering. Wow.